echo against the mountains and announce her presence to whoever might be listening. And someone was. Alisha hesitated at a sharp curve in the stone, calming her breathing before she cautiously glanced around the bend. A runoff channel, left by millennia of melting snow water, had created a natural switchback. It was the easiest course to take. Her goal lay just beyond the switchback, only a little higher up on the mountain. Had she been there first, it was the track she'd have taken. She could see her rival farther up that trail. Mildly annoyed, she stepped back against the mountain wall again to examine her other options. The cliff that the switchback snaked around wasn't quite sheer. Alisha studied it from her vantage point in the shadows, then curled her lip again and slipped her backpack off. When she'd had all night and no competition, climbing with only the faint light of the crescent moon and her own judgment had been a challenge. With someone already ahead of her, it was wiser, if less thrilling, to rely on the technology she had at hand. Night goggles fit snugly over her face, little more than sunglasses in weight. The world went vividly green. Alisha took a few seconds, waiting until she was confident of the oddly colored brights and darknesses. She didn't dare risk the metal crampons that were in her pack. The mountain wind shrieked noisily enough most of the time, but when it fell silent, it was as if the world had paused to listen to every action she took. One clank of metal against rock would warn her competitor of her presence. Alisha wriggled her toes in the form-fitting climbing boots she wore. Rubber pebbles covering the soles were made up of microfilaments that stuck, lizard-like, to surfaces. The boots themselves would stick to the ceiling, and a rashly hopeful Alisha had found out the hard way that the first-generation tech wasn't strong enough to let her Spider-Man around a ceiling. Even so, they provided a surety that had given her enough confidence to free climb this far. Her gloves were covered with the same pebbled microfilament. Alisha shrugged her backpack on again, fastening it around her waist with a knot instead of the clip meant to hold it. Another question of quietness over practicality, just as her choice to go radio silent hours earlier had been. Climbing steep mountainsides was not a place to be interrupted by unexpected voices in her ear. Alisha stretched tall to work her fingers over a ledge, hardly deeper than her first knuckle. It was enough to give her purchase, enough to allow her the slow burn of muscle in her biceps as she drew herself higher with upper body strength alone. She liked to think of her unexpected strength as a gift, her secret weapon. There were few enough opportunities to show it off. The point of a secret weapon was to only use it when necessary. Crushing a contact's hands told him far more about her than it could tell her about him. But the mountainside would remain silent about her lapse into the sheer pleasure of physical exertion. Alisha jammed her toes into a crevice in the rock, feeling the solid microfilament grip reduce some of the strain on her arms. Muscle trembled all the way to her spine, her core tightening as she pulled herself higher on the mountainside. Free climbing, the riskiest way to climb. Risky, but silent. No more sound to it than her deliberately controlled breathing and the occasional chip of rock falling away as her fingers or feet brushed rubble from a ledge. There were no pieces of metal that might catch an unexpected light and betray her presence to a watcher. No partner to converse with and warn about bad pieces of rock. There was only Alisha and the mountain. One determined and the other uncaring. Each incremental upward movement took all of her physical attention, eyes and hands focused wholly on the task at hand, feet always testing and supporting her weight. It left her mind surprisingly clear for thought. She saw it as a kind of zen, her body wholly occupied and her thoughts separated from that. It was an ideal she sought through the practice of yoga, the art that was at least partly responsible for her strength, and one which she found far more often in the midst of her job than any other time. She hadn't waited to see if her handler had approved her going radio silent. Alisha found another faint smile in herself, rather than the stab of guilt she suspected her handler would have preferred. Agents were intended to be self-reliant, but Alisha thought Gregory Parker would rather she was slightly more concerned with his directions. She had been, once upon a time.